Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to Team 8's lecture on the 6 Thinking Hats by Edward de Bono. This is a methodology developed by a multi-psychologist. Edward de Bono is a multi-psychologist. He is also trained in medicine and in law. And he, in 1985, wrote this book called The 6 Thinking Hats. And basically, the 6 Thinking Hats is a methodology of solving a problem or making a decision within a larger group. And it is a method which uses a term that he coined called lateral thinking. And lateral thinking challenges the idea of ordinary problem solving, the ordinary linear methodology which we ordinarily use, going step by step. Instead, he says we need to switch perspectives, and we need to, in order to get a holistic view of the problem, and we need to take the whole group that's involved, and we need to have everyone within that group thinking along the same lines, thinking from the same perspective about the problem at any given point in time. And then we get participation from everybody in the group based on that perspective. And the result of that is that we have a holistic decision-making process. We are fully informed, every person in the group is fully informed of that decision, and there's general consensus in that decision making. So this is the conventional argument setup. We have opinion A and opinion B, and you have the pros and cons on either side, and I think many of you can relate to this. Generally, the way we go into our arguments is we've made up our mind beforehand, and we set about convincing everybody else that we're right. And then the debating ensues, and we really don't yield unless there's something incredibly compelling, and then we move on, and so progress is slow in that manner. De Bono's model looks more like this, in which he calls it collaborative parallel thinking or lateral thinking. And what he's done, to introduce the 6 hats, he's given them colors, is to say these are the facets or perspectives from which we need to examine our problem and completely flesh it out. And so the first one, and each of my colleagues will go through them in detail, is looking at the facts and information around the problem, looking at the emotions of the various stakeholders involved, looking at potential pitfalls or problems with the proposed solutions, seeing the value and positive contributions and solutions that are being proposed, looking at alternative possibilities and potential for expanding upon certain solutions, and finally, making sure that the right process is being followed at all times. And so that becomes a kind of curator or facilitating check on the entire process. And now I'll hand over to Dario to deal with the first hat.
Thank you, Spencer. So why don't we just start by diving into the first hat, which is the white hat. And the white hat is basically focused on information and facts. And a way you can remember this is basically think of the white background on the text of the veritas. You want to focus on the truth, things that aren't really arguable. So at this stage, everybody puts on their white hat and everybody thinks about facts concerning the problem that we're trying to solve or the brainstorm that we're trying to complete. And everybody asks what information is available, what information is needed, what information is missing, and how can you get that information that's missing. And at this point, you don't really discriminate on facts. You present them all even if they're conflicting. And if information disagrees, you say, don't worry about it, we'll deal with it later, and you present both as truths. And that's the white hat. And next is the red hat, which is the focus on emotions and feelings. And the way you can remember this is basically an angry face, you're full of emotion. It could be other emotions as well, but basically you're very warm and fire. Putting on the red hat, the group allows itself to present emotions and feelings without needing to try to compensate and say, well, this is based on logic or this is based on something else. You just present your emotions and your gut feelings the way it is. And these are often very useful because your gut feelings and other emotions are sometimes based on years of experience. And while you may not be able to vocalize what your intuition is based on, it could be a real useful feature that you want to include in the group discussion. So on that note, we will discuss a little bit about the next black hat.
So the black hat is the head of caution, the head of risk assessment, evaluation, weaknesses, obstacles, critics. When using the black hat, people should be thinking about why something might not work, what does not fit, value, budget, anything that could be wrong. And although many people think the black hat is not a bad hat, it is an extremely helpful hat because it prevents us from doing something that is damaging, dangerous, that could cause some harm, that is pollution or any other thing. The black hat, it is a very easy hat because it is a natural hat. The brain has a natural mechanism for risk assessment. The only problem with the black hat is that it's very easy to overuse, so it should be used carefully to avoid getting rid of really good ideas. The yellow hat, on the other hand, is the positive hat. It is the logical positive, actually, because people, when using that hat, people should be doing a strong effort to look for benefits, values, strengths, best scenario, positive thinking. It is a look on the bright side. But people should be giving support to their ideas, giving reasons why it is a benefit. It is a much more difficult hat than the black hat because it's not natural. People tend to criticize easier than to compliment a thing. So people should develop a yellow hat attitude, to develop a skill of value sensitivity to use that hat.
The next hat we want to talk about is the green hat. This hat focuses on creativity and innovation and looking at alternative solutions to the same problem. One main aspect of this hat is that everyone should be looking at creative solutions and that no one should be criticizing or judging other ideas for being, not grounded enough or too out of the box. Instead, we should be looking at these ideas as inspirations and perhaps will help encourage you to later find a solution that is better than ones that were more logical or seemed the most fitting at the time. Finally, we have the blue hat. The blue hat is focused on process control and looking at developing goals and objectives. This hat is one that is typically worn throughout the brainstorming period so that someone can rein the group back in if we're going too far in one direction or too far in another. Oftentimes, the black hat will call upon, the blue hat will call upon, say, the black hat if ideas are getting too out of hand or not grounded enough, or call upon the green hat if solutions are too typical and not creative enough. And so the blue hat is there to kind of manage the process and make sure that the right steps are being taken so that in the end we do reach a goal or some solution.
So just to wrap up, what we have presented to you is a methodology for intentional role-playing to arrive at a more complete solution. So one of the benefits of using this methodology is that it avoids the confrontation that might arise from having an unstructured approach to problem solving or discussion. And like we said, there are 6 hats representing 6 colors where you have where you look at a problem analytically, emotionally, creatively, positively, negatively, and then you have the blue hat, which is going to guide the discussion and assess whether we need more of more creativity or more negative thinking, depending on the needs of the discussion. Another great thing about it is that it forces people to think differently. So everyone is thinking about a problem in the same way, but because everyone has a viewpoint within that same mode of thinking, you really get a lot, and in the end you can get a more holistic and robust solution.
Cool. So we just taught you guys about this really exciting methodology. But you might be thinking, how might this play out in a real life setting? So lucky for you, we have an example. So say we are the administrative board of Harvard, and we have to make this extremely difficult decision, whether we should get rid of the coin, because students are complaining, cost too far, but what should we do? How can we as a board come together and make a decision? So you might use the traditional methodology, which we will.
What that might look like. So we'll start with our own opinions.
So hello board, we have to make this decision about whether we are getting rid of the quad today. What do you guys think?
Well, I just don't think that's a great idea. I mean, why would we want to get rid of the quad? Like, we have all that
Wait, why
space,
not?
but there's all that space.
It's
What
so
are you
far.
gonna do with a student?
It's
Like,
so
all
far.
students,
The
we
students-
have one
the
for
students
one,
do
you're
not
already
get-
doing
No,
something.
it's
They're so segregated.
Any
But they're so
system,
segregated.
it's an arbitrary, unfair system.
Why is it
You
arbitrary?
can't say.
Why is it arbitrary?
It's not arbitrary.
Why not arbitrary? You're not saying
It's
no,
not
why is it
All
arbitrary?
right, guys.
Listen,
So in the traditional methodology, you see everyone's kind of talking at the same time. We're all wearing different types of hats. We have one person who's really emotional, one person who's very optimistic, one person who's trying to come up with ideas, but it's just getting shot down. So a better way we can approach this, using our 6-hat methodology, would be to talk about this and all wear the same hat. And then we can move through these 6 hats and talk about all 6 of these perspectives. So you might start off with the blue hat.
Well, so the goal that we want to accomplish is eventually figure out, if we want to get rid of the quad or not, and, in either way, what we want to do with the space, what we do, and basically figure out, how we want to approach this.
I think we should start out, now that we're wearing our blue hat, why don't we just lay out a trajectory? Why don't we start out by laying out some facts, and then we can take those into consideration.
Great. So let's put on our white hat and look at the facts.
Okay. So, well, I think a fact that we all know is that violent attacks walking between classes and dorms are twice as likely for people who live in the quad than those who live in the river. So I think that's something we should take into account.
that's right. We also have about 25% of the student population living in the quad versus the 75% down at the river.
Yeah, we also have to take in consideration the costs for getting rid of the houses and constructing new houses for the people that live there.
And just like if you look at travel time, all the travel time that you could save from getting rid of the quad houses.
And right now, half of our shuttles are going between the quad and the yard, and the other half are to the river. So with the budgeting for shuttles, transportation.
These are all statistics we should keep in mind.
So now that we have some background information, we're going to move on to the red hat. What are the implications of this for the campus?
So I'm really worried about what might happen to Quad Spirit and the alums. Like what would that do to the Quad's alumni base? Basically, I mean, you get rid of the Quad. So that's something I would really be concerned about.
My gut feeling is that though you're right, donations might go down, and house spirit might go down. I feel like Harvard spirit would go up if we have this one unified campus stuff.
I'm really concerned about the fact that our dining halls in the river are sometimes very crowded anyway, and now we are saying we're going to add 25% more people down there. It's probably going to be a problem.
And people might be upset they have to start sharing bedrooms because there's not enough space for everyone to have singles.
Yeah, but people who live in the quad might think it's not fair for them to live in the quad because it's arbitrary in the system.
Okay. So now that we've defined some of the thoughts that people might have about this, we can look at the negative aspects. What are some things that are not so great?
I think Lily pointed out one of the negative thoughts I had, which is cost. I think that's going to be really hold us down, and no matter any solution that we propose, we definitely need to keep that in mind.
Also, we're already doing renovation in a lot of the river houses, and so with that, we're already putting people in swing housing, so that's something we also have to consider if we want half the campus to be under construction.
Also, I think we might encounter a lot of resistance from the Quad residents themselves. So a lot of people love it.
What will happen to the empty space? We'll be, sitting with potentially unused land.
Would that make like crime go up in here?
A lot.
Okay, well, now that we've considered some of the negative aspects, I think there's a lot of value that can come out of it as well. We've got a yellow hat.
So, like we mentioned, crime might go down, and safety, I think, of the students would increase.
Well, if we move all the shuttles to just be between the river and the yard, we can probably add stops for, say, Elliott, because I know a lot of students there, have to walk just as far.
Yeah. We're going to have a more strong community around Harvard, so Harvard spirit.
Yeah, so there wouldn't be like two segregated communities, right? So you wouldn't have the Quad people and the river people, because everyone would be by the river, and you get to see everyone all the time.
We could also use that area for something really cool, like the Lowell House garden could be increased and the whole quad could be a sustainable agricultural area.
Cool, so it looks like you came up with some great ideas. Maybe we can move on to some creative solutions to this.
What if we, instead of moving everybody down to the river, just had a big tunnel underground going from the quad to the yard, and people could use that to get around? That's all. Well, and it seems to go back to the blue hat that we followed the process and we are now informed to make a decision on this.
Correct.
Thank you, team, for sitting down today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.